following program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program does not replace medical, mental health, or psychological diagnosis and treatment prescribed by your personal physician, psychologist, therapist, or other healthcare provider. Please consult your provider for diagnosis and care before beginning or changing any program or idea discussed.
Welcome to She Talks Health with Sophie Shepherd. Today's woman has a lot of questions about their health and lifestyle choices. But where can you get the right answers? The answer is here and the time is now. Here is your host, Sophie Shepherd.
Hello, ladies. Welcome to the third episode of She Talks Health, and this is your host, Sophie Shepherd. We're here on Voice America on the Health and Wellness Channel. Voice America is the largest live internet radio network in the world, and I want to humbly welcome each of you to this incredible episode we have for you today. In this episode, we'll be talking about the journey of finding the underlying issues that are causing infertility. But first, I wanted to open up the conversation to the biggest thing that we're all thinking about right now, which is this pandemic we're in and the COVID-19 situation. I know I am here in Jacksonville, Florida with my mom. She's sitting across from me right now, and we're figuring out the whole workstation from home thing. And my dad's here, and my partner is also here in the other room. And we actually decided to get out of New York City because it has one of the highest populations of the virus right now, and we just felt like we would be better off down in Florida. So we actually took a 13-hour drive down to Jacksonville over the weekend, which was pretty exhausting. And I was definitely doing everything I could to support my immune system during that time. And I think even for us health practitioners, this has been a really challenging time. There is a big call for us to stand strong and be leaders in this uncertain time when people are really stressed out. And I wanted to open up the conversation to Anna and maybe see what she's doing also to support her health. And I guess I'll start too by telling you guys what I've done, and then hopefully that's going to help you as well. So for me, the basics, the fundamentals of health building are key. And if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, go back to episode 1 where we talked about it with Reed Davis. And we're talking about diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and strategic supplementation. And so for me, getting 3 good meals with nutrient-dense foods has been really, really important. Getting 8 hours of sleep and moving my body. And then starting my day with some sort of breath work or meditation. Now, that might sound like a lot, but we are home. So now is actually the time when we can invest more time into our health, perhaps, and create those really beautiful boundaries so that when we come out of this on the other side, we have those in our toolkit. So that's what I've been doing. And, I want to also say that no one's perfect, even me. I had a really tough day yesterday. And you know what I realized? I was having a breakdown because I didn't sleep. I didn't drink enough water, and I didn't have a good enough amount of food. So those things can really help ground us back down. So before you run out to the store and buy every single supplement off of the shelf, just come back to the basics. And with that, I'd love to have Anna come on and tell us what she's doing. But before I introduce Anna, I want to properly introduce Anna with her amazing bio, because, oh my gosh, I've been so excited for her to come on to the show. So Anna Saucier is the founder of Inspired Fertility Pro and Cycle Power Summit. And after 7 long years of struggling to get pregnant, she had surrendered to the idea that she may never have children. Anna was determined to support other women and couples faced with the same infertility challenges, and during her 13-month internship to become a certified fertility care practitioner, she actually became pregnant with her first child. In this episode, we're going to be discussing her own journey and what you can do to investigate the root causes of infertility, as well as the best recommendations on diagnostic tools and charting. So with that, Anna, please welcome to the show. And how are you doing today with the COVID-19 and just in general? I know you have a big family, and how you doing?
Hi, Sophie. It's great to be here. Oh my gosh. This is a really, really challenging time. It was interesting. I mean, personally for our family, as you know, we'd been in Asia for the last 8 or 9 months, and kind of finally decided or finally realized that we needed to get back to the West while we still could, just realizing that we don't know how long this is going to last, right? And we don't have visas that last forever. So within the last 8 days, we flew across the world with 2 little kids, and then actually settled down in Baja California, Mexico to ride this out. So over the last week, it's interesting you bring up what are we doing to take care of ourselves, because honestly, in the last couple days, I've just been, hit that point of exhaustion, because not only are we doing this, just the stress of what is going on in the world and what do we expect and how does life look like? What does life look like right now? But also settling into a new house. We've been digital nomads, so we don't have much stuff. So we found a house. We're stocking up on supplies. So and plus with the Cycle Power Summit, I feel like I'm full speed ahead on 2 different launches. Like a life launch and an online launch. And it's so easy to forget to take care of myself first. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing and just being honest and real with where you're at. I can't imagine being in Asia when all of this started. And obviously, there was a lot of news coming out about, flights not being canceled and not being able to get back into the States. And actually, I'll be super honest that Anna and I were supposed to do this a little bit earlier. We were going to do a pre-record because she was in Asia, so she wouldn't be awake at the time. But we ended up having to reschedule it for today because she was dealing with all of this, and just the amount of stress I think that this has caused on everybody. Everyone has a story of what this is doing, how this is affecting you. It might be affecting you financially. It might be affecting you and your family, or, you're sick. So I'm just getting chills even thinking about it. And thank you for being vulnerable enough to share how challenging this has been for you. And I hear you. I kind of got to the point of exhaustion yesterday as well. My partner's father died a couple weeks back, and it's just been a crazy whirlwind of stress. And a couple of things that I've been really grounding into are essential oils. If anyone's into that, I don't know if that helps you, Anna, or if you have another thing, but breathing essential oils and really trying to watch my caffeine intake have been really crucial for me to manage my stress. And then I think just having an outlet, getting on these calls and talking to people about what's going on has been really, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And fortunately, before all this, I had implemented, I find them very simple habits, but so powerful for me. Just first thing in the morning, I drink 2 glasses of water. Before any food and any coffee, because I used to have coffee first thing. I know that makes a huge difference for me, just to do that first thing in the morning, because I know I'm going to get some water in. So that's a habit that I've continued forward. Added some, like you mentioned, some additional immune boosting supplements that I have been doing. And trying to get that sleep back in. With 2 littles, that's already a struggle, but I do the best I can.
Absolutely. And I love that. I also do the water in the morning, and just those tiny little things that we can do for ourselves really make a big difference. And I guess it's a really good transition, actually. You mentioned your 2 little ones. So I know you are now pregnant. You were pregnant twice after having massive amounts of infertility. And I know that's not uncommon. I've seen studies from the CDC showing that 1 out of 7 couples have trouble conceiving. And I know that many couples are spending thousands and thousands of dollars in IVF to get pregnant. It's between $10,000 and $15,000, I think, to do IVF. And that doesn't even include some of the medication, let alone what's happening to your body hormonally. And I know, as a functional nutrition practitioner, I definitely support women with their menstrual health often. And there are so many opportunities to support fertility by working on identifying the root causes of issues and by doing root cause testing and supporting your body with diet and lifestyle changes. So it's just an honor to have you here, because I know you've been through all this firsthand. And I wonder if you could maybe start by describing what those 7 years were like for you when you were trying to get pregnant.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I was going to say, Sophie, let's talk about the emotional side first, because I've been reflecting a bit, especially in the last couple of days. I started thinking, wow, something about this living in this time feels a lot like going through infertility, because it's so big and it's so all-consuming, and it affects every area of your life. And it's really easy to forget to continue living. When going through that struggle, just the constant, every month the negative pregnancy tests. And if you're going through some fertility treatment, even in a restorative way, there still may be ultrasounds, regularly to see what's going on with ovulation. You still maybe have a whole bunch of supplements or things that you're taking. So there's a lot of things to do throughout each cycle that you can't really forget about it. It's just a constant reminder of this is my whole focus. And that was definitely a struggle for me. It was always, I'm so grateful for my husband, who was always the one who made us keep living, because my initial, what I would have the tendency to do if an opportunity for a trip would come up, or we wanted to go on a vacation, or we wanted to run a marathon or something, it was always, well, what if I become pregnant? Maybe we shouldn't do that. We should try to do it later. But his response was always, well, then we'll change it. Then we can cancel it, because it's so easy to forget to continue living, to forget even to just laugh. It would be with the kids, like, as we're trying to get everything stocked up, and I'm trying to find time to work and where to work, and to not forget to just and to do, and a lot of similarity there in the emotional process.
Yeah. And you cut out a little bit at the end, but I think we get the gist of it. And I can really relate to that too. I haven't struggled with infertility yet, or that's not been my forget to stop living story, but going through Hashimoto's and SIBO and IBS and so many chronic illness, I think anyone who's suffering with chronic illness can really relate to that. And as a woman, I think we want to nurture and take care, and so we're very careful. And so you stop living, and you're living your life around one central thing, and even that is causing massive amounts of stress, which we know can be a leading cause for infertility. So it's interesting how we kind of end up in this loop. And I was going to ask you, it's interesting, I was going to ask you if this was similar for you as well during this time. So I'm glad you brought that up. And in those 7 years, I mean, you must have tried a lot of different things to get pregnant. What did you try that was or wasn't successful? And could you explain those types of things and why you went down those different paths?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything looked normal on paper. My cycles looked normal. And initially, when we started trying to conceive, and then it gets to be 3 months and 6 months, or I'm not sure exactly when we went to the doctor initially, but in the beginning, usually it's the response of, okay, well, start having sex every other day, during this time, and continue doing that for a while. And then we tried some Clomid. That's usually the next thing. And we, in mainstream medicine, there's not a whole lot in mainstream fertility care. There's not a whole lot more after that until going to IVF or IUI or another assisted reproductive technology. But we just weren't comfortable with that. We both felt like that was too much of a taking, and we really wanted to understand what was going on. And so I heard about a restorative reproductive medicine approach in which you learn to chart your cycle in a very in-depth way, which then can be used as a diagnostic tool by a doctor who knows how to read that, to really dive into identifying those underlying causes. So some of the first things, when we learned to chart using the Creighton model, and I worked with Dr. Teresa, who is trained in naprotechnology, which is a type of restorative reproductive medicine. And one of the first things she did was had me do a hormone profile throughout my almost the entire cycle. So I went for blood work every other day for about
oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. But it gives you an incredible map of what's going on, and then compares it to the norm and what's supposed to happen. Because a lot of people, or even a lot of doctors, will take blood work on one day of the cycle, and that is their baseline for, is your progesterone and estrogen normal or not? But those two hormones, they follow a curve in a very particular relationship to each other throughout the entire cycle. And if it's off in one, it might be normal in one place, but off in another place. And so that way you can really dive into a targeted supplementation, a natural supplementation of that particular hormone. So through that process, we learned that my progesterone started to rise in the second half of the cycle, but then dropped off dramatically. Mm-hmm. So that was not working, right? Mm-hmm. The next thing that she did was an ovulation, to assess ovulation. So an ultrasound panel where once, according to my charting, when I started to get close to ovulation, actually, she did an ultrasound every day. Then for the next 3 or 4 days, I went into her office and did ovulation. So she could watch the growth of the follicle and when ovulation happened, because every ovulation is not created equal. You can have an early ovulation or a late ovulation, which it definitely affects the ability to get pregnant, right? So what we learned through my ultrasound series is that I was actually not ovulating at all. My follicles would grow and grow to the right size, would not release that egg. It would actually continue to grow then, and then at some point disintegrate. So, just having an answer, wow, I may have never ovulated in my entire life. And that's called luteinized unruptured follicle syndrome.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I had an answer.
Yeah, that's great. And there's so much to dive into here. And I want to back up for people who don't necessarily know all these terms. So, well, first of all, that's incredible that you and your husband kind of leaned into the emotional side of things again and decided what was right for you without judgment of other people. It's just about what's right for the couple and what kind of approach you want to go through, and that you found this kind of reproductive, restorative method through charting and really in-depth charting, and that you found a doctor that could really help you, because that's the missing piece a lot of people don't get, is having a doctor who really understands this and will go the extra mile to do this extra blood testing and ultrasound. And for anyone who's listening and doesn't really know about the cycle, what Anna's talking about is that we'll put it into two halves, I guess. There's the estrogen half and there's the progesterone half, but a lot can happen in those two times. And the first day of your cycle, day 1 is actually the first day of bleeding. And then as you get closer to ovulation, that's approximately around day 14. But as Anna showed, her day could have been day 13, it could have been day 12, it could have been that she wasn't ovulating at all. And in order to carry a child to term, you have to have progesterone. And the only way that progesterone is created is through the corpus luteum, which is created as a temporary gland after you ovulate. So if Anna wasn't ovulating, she then cannot actually get pregnant. And so this is crucial, because there could be so many reasons why you're not getting pregnant. But the first question I think that I always ask as a practitioner is, are you ovulating? And because I see a lot of women who come off of birth control, for example, and they're not ovulating for a while and they're not sure what's going on. And that's really common coming off of the pill. So there's a lot of reasons why you could be having infertility issues. So I hope that helps explain it. And I don't know if there's anything else that I missed in that explanation that you want to add into. But my next question for you was really, I think you trained to be a fertility care practitioner and then you got pregnant, right? It wasn't you got pregnant and then you did the fertility care. So can you explain that? And if I missed anything in my explanation, please feel free to add in as well.
Yeah, sure. No, and just the one interesting part of is you're asking people, are you ovulating? The interesting thing for me was, on paper, everything looked like I was ovulating normally, but without doing that ultrasound series, to really know what was going on, we would have continued down the process to assume that I was actually ovulating. So this is a fairly rare, phenomenon that happen. But understand that if somebody's ovulating unless you actually see it on ultrasound.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And so what inspired you to become a fertility care practitioner? And we have about 5 minutes to break. So we'll start with that. And then when we come back, maybe we could talk about what things actually ended up working for you to get pregnant.
Yeah, absolutely. So just diving into all of this knowledge, I just had started to have the overwhelming feeling like every woman needs to know that this is available. Not only that the charting is a useful diagnostic tool for problems with infertility, but also other underlying issues of women's health concerns, but also as a method of natural family planning. You know, for women and couples who don't want to be on birth control or use an IUD, as I was learning more about the charting method for my own purposes, I was also learning that it is a very effective tool to use, you know, on the other end of things. And I thought, wow, women just really need to know that this is an option for them on both ends of the spectrum. And so at the time, I really was doing a lot of soul searching of what do I want to do with my life? You know, what is my thing? And that just really came up as something really important that I wanted to share with women around the world.
Wow, that's incredible. And I can't wait when we come back from break to hear more about what that all entails. And I know from my experience, I work probably on the other end of things, as you mentioned. I work a lot with women who may not be right now looking to get pregnant, but they might be looking to come off the birth control pill, or they're having a lot of hormonal issues like PMS and PMDD, or even endometriosis or PCOS, or just the symptoms of various things that are kind of keeping them back. And this is one of the most powerful things that women can do, is learn how to chart their cycle. And I think also to get in line with your body, right? And work and move and eat with your cycle, and really understanding what that looks like. I'm actually, next week, Dr. Beth Westy is coming on to talk about how we can kind of optimize our nutrition throughout our cycle. But I think this is just an incredible starting place, because without it, we don't really know where we are in the month. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we have, we can look at it as a blessing or as a curse, but I choose to look at it as we just have this beautiful flow that changes how our, how we think, how we behave, and how we feel throughout the cycle. And we can either fight it or we can embrace it. And I think when we can embrace it, each different part of that cycle can truly become a superpower when we really understand what's going on.
Absolutely. This is the basis of so much of my work. And women, we're taught that our period is the main event. I think ovulation gets the back burner when ovulation is such a huge part. And the truth is that we are very different women throughout the month, and we get to live in that and actually use that as a superpower, as you said, to leverage how we think, how we work, who we interact with. And all of that kind of gives us a leg up. I think there's a field of people who think that, hormonal imbalances make women weak because they associate it with emotional instability. But when you understand why those emotions might be coming up at certain times of the month, you can really leverage that, prepare yourself, and go, into work or wherever you are with a sense of calm and security. So I love that. And I can't wait to hear a little bit more about what it means to be a fertility care practitioner. When we come back from the break, we'll be talking to Anna about what that means, and also her journey through getting pregnant, what actually ended up working, and then talking about her amazing online summit, the Cycle Power Summit, that's coming up in just a couple of weeks, where you can learn more about how to be empowered through your cycle. So I'm super, super excited for that. Anna, we're going to break in 30 seconds, and we'll come right back in a couple minutes, and really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it also, like you were talking about, Sophie, when we're in tune with that, you also can intuitively know when something's off. Mm-hmm. We really become in tune. Okay, this is how I feel during this part, and this is what's normal. And wait a second, something else is going on here now.
Absolutely. And with that, we'll head to break.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
Sophie Shepard is a functional nutrition practitioner and founder of She. Sophie helps busy women all over the world go from hormonal chaos to optimal hormonal alignment so they can live their lives fully without being held back by their bodies. Using the power of functional lab testing combined with life-changing mindset shifts and integrating the entire body's system. If the only thing holding you back is your health, it's time to stop letting hormonal chaos run your world. Book your health discovery call today by going to shetalkshealth.com. Are you done medicating and guessing your way through the exhaustion, pain, and irritability caused by hormonal and digestive health issues? Sophie Shepard, founder of She, will help you go from symptom-ridden and confused to finally having clarity about how your hormones work and confidence in your health strategy in just 10 days. If you are ready to stop living with no energy, brain fog, anxiety, digestive issues, and painful periods, then check out the 10-day digestive and hormone reboot at shetalkshealth.com.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
You are listening to She Talks Health. If you have a question or comment about the show, send an email to sophie@she-nyc.com. That's sophie@she-nyc.com. Now back to She Talks Health.
Hello and welcome back. I'm here with Anna Saucier, the founder of Inspired Fertility Pro and Cycle Power Summit. And we are talking about infertility, what causes it, what can you do about it, and how you can chart your cycle to support your pregnancy goals and also her amazing upcoming online summit. So welcome back, everybody. And Anna, I was just going to ask you more about what it is like to be a fertility care practitioner, what that entails, and how it supported you in getting pregnant.
Yeah, absolutely. Becoming a fertility care practitioner was a way that I could dive in and help other women who are struggling with the same thing that I was. And so I decided to begin the training. I flew to Texas for the initial 8 days of immersive instruction, really learning. And when we came out of there, truly understanding the female body, probably more so than most OBGYNs, honestly.
Wow.
Because we really get into the crypts that produce the mucus and all kinds of detail that goes into particularly Creighton model charting, which is pretty in-depth charting method of cervical mucus observations only. And then went through a 13-month internship with a supervisor. So immediately after that initial training, began working with women and couples to help them learn to chart, and then helping them to take that information and take it to a doctor who understands how to use that to diagnose and help them identify underlying issues. Because with that map, that the chart is, there are things that we can see on the chart that indicate what issues might be present, like low progesterone, which is interestingly, it's super easy thing to fix, but it can cause somebody to not be able to get pregnant, for months or years. It's simply supplementing that progesterone in the post-ovulatory phase. There's other signs in the charting that we can see that indicate endometriosis, PCOS, that are other major culprits of underlying issues of infertility. And it's important to see that infertility as a symptom of those underlying issues. There's other things going on in the woman's body, so we need to find out what those are in order to hopefully become pregnant naturally, and then also carry that pregnancy naturally I believe in a healthier way, because we've restored the reproductive system to its health.
Absolutely. I love that you just said that infertility is a symptom of a bigger issue. This is so true. It is. It sounds weird to say it, but it is, right? Because there's a reason why you aren't getting pregnant. And so you mentioned endometriosis, PCOS, low progesterone, which I think low progesterone is like one of the number one things I see, or estrogen dominance in relationship to low progesterone. Are there any other causes that were coming up for you or for other people that you were working with that women should know about that were causing infertility?
I think there's a whole relationship of things that can be happening in the body. Those are some of the direct diseases, I guess you would call them, conditions like endometriosis and PCOS are very common. Oftentimes, though, if the hormones are misplaced, or misaligned in terms of each other, that can accompany a whole lot of other issues with thyroid, adrenal, and all of those. I don't know that we can identify, one specific thing. It's almost always a combination of things, and often a combination of things that are all affecting each other.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. And I agree completely. With any hormonal issue, I get a lot of questions. Well, what's this one thing that I can fix? And it oftentimes, because the hormones work as a symphony, one thing affects the other. So for example, if you are under chronic stress and it's affecting your adrenal glands, you could be suppressing your thyroid, and that could be an issue. And if you're doing that, it's going to be very hard for you to have a successful pregnancy. And additionally, if you're stressed, it could be driving down progesterone, and that could be another issue altogether. So I love that, because it's kind of a full body approach to, you look at the root causes, but then you have to kind of look at the whole body and what can I do to support it. And that's where kind of the diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation comes into play.
Yeah. Another big thing that learning more and more about, that I'm seeing doctors learning more, is the egg quality and the quality of the eggs, which I believe was a big factor. I believe is a big factor in luteinized unruptured follicle syndrome, which was my diagnosis. Because if you don't have good quality eggs, you're not going to have good quality ovulation, and therefore can't become pregnant. And as far as what is the cause of poor egg quality, we're not sure, but all of those factors that you mentioned, diet, stress, all these things contribute to poor egg quality, but it's something that can be improved. We can actually improve the quality of those eggs. One supplement that comes into mind is CoQ10, which a lot of the doctors are recommending for increasing egg quality. It can make a huge difference. And I had started a couple of those supplements myself. Now, I don't know should I tell what worked for me?
Sure. Yeah. I think that's always helpful to hear. And before you do, one thing that's coming to mind for me as well is when we talk about follicles, it's really important to know that the follicles the period that you have, or the ovulation that you have, is over a period of 3 months. So your follicles can be kind of developing over 3 months, which is why when you work with somebody who's trying to get pregnant, it's important to really look at like the 3 months prior to that fertility, and not just for the growth of the baby, but also for the success of the pregnancy, or even just a successful and happy period. So I just think that was interesting what you said about the egg quality. And I wanted to remind folks that it's not just about what you do the day before you ovulate. It's about the 3 months prior.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I hear from all the doctors that I work with as well.
Yes.
We work on that for 3 months.
Yes. That's amazing. Oh, no problem. She's muting herself while she coughs, everybody. Once she's okay. Back. Perfect. Anna, I would love to hear what worked for you, what combination of things you tried that helped.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sophie, about 2 years before we became pregnant, I started going to counseling for the first time. And, it had been 5 years of this huge struggle, and I dove into that, and I believe working through so much of the heart work and the head work really contributed to the healing, to coming to a place where I could say, without completely breaking down, maybe we won't get pregnant and I can still have a happy life. And I think, I in my own journey, I would have hated, despise people who say, just relax, we never want to say that, or when you give up, it'll happen. But it's really not about giving up. It's about working through those emotions. And it's about working through, okay, what is life? Life is not when this happens, or when I achieve this, or when I get this. And so I was living my life for getting pregnant, and, believing that I would not be happy until I had children. And I believe that's what needs to be worked through, because I need to be able to be full and complete life in my own right. And I believe that's the gift, a gift that I also want to be able to give my children, if and when I do get pregnant. And so working through that, all of that emotional stuff, I believe is a huge factor in us achieving pregnancy.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I was not expecting you to say that. And I love that. And it's I can relate to this so much with chronic illness that I've been through. And you kind of take on the story of, oh, I'm infertile, or I'm this, or I'm that. And you lose track of who you really are and what you are on this earth to give. And part of that might be becoming pregnant or something else. I love that you work through that, because I think trauma truly is stored in the body. There's so much work on this being done. And I love that this was part of your journey to a healthy conception.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. And then on the physical and medical side, for probably 2 years, we worked with this doctor because of the luteinized unruptured follicle syndrome. We did use some drugs at the right timing to try and to make that follicle release the egg. And so, which necessitated a very careful set of just timing, because we would do an ultrasound and we wanted to do it at the right time when the follicle was a certain size. And so we did several cycles of doing that. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And then there were whole cycles where I just needed to completely take a break from all of that, because there was the blood work and the ultrasounds and everything. But we never became pregnant through that. And then we reached there was going to be a summer where we had decided to do some traveling, and I talked to my doctor and we said, okay, we're just going to take a break this summer. She was just starting to learn about this concept of egg quality. So this was 5.5 years ago now. And she said, well, can I recommend a couple supplements that I'd like to try, for you to take over the summer, and then we'll see where you're at afterward. And so we get back from the summer and said, okay, we're ready to dive in again. We went in for, the first cycle to work on the timing, to do the injection and all of this. And we actually missed the timing for the injection, but I had the ultrasound that we would always do after to see if I actually ovulated. And she said, I think you ovulated on your own.
Wow.
We're like, whoa, this has never happened, and we didn't become pregnant, but okay, well, we'll try the next cycle. And the same thing happened. We missed the right window. But she said, I think you ovulated on your own. And again, she said, let's not do anything next cycle, and let's just see what happens. And we became pregnant completely naturally.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That is so incredible. So what were the supplements that you were taking over that summer?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I couldn't bring them right to mind.
That's okay.
But I think over the last 5.5 years, those particular supplements have evolved into others.
Sure.
So one of them being CoQ10, and really a cellular, I'm trying to remember the name of the other one, but it was more of a cellular health supplement.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
it's interesting because
share those with you later. But I also made some diet changes over that summer as well. So
interesting.
Really low, if not no processed sugar, and gluten-free as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, why I'm saying interesting for anyone who's listening who might not have ever kind of heard of this is that there are, like we mentioned, many reasons why you might not be getting pregnant. But when we look at ovulation and what could be happening there, one of the things that I see often is kind of a massive amount of inflammation. And we know that diet, specifically gluten and usually dairy, are massive inflammatory foods for a lot of people. And then in addition, you're taking something like CoQ10, which is going to support that inflammation. And so that can really help with a lot of things, including getting pregnant, which is really cool. I love hearing that. And that you kind of looked at this holistically. You did the medical approach, you did the diet and lifestyle changes. So, and then you did the cycling. So you've mentioned a couple times the charting, you mentioned Creighton model. So how can women learn how to chart their cycles without being intimidating? I know there's a lot of charting forms out there. Can you explain the different types or why you chose the Creighton one out of it and how people can really start to incorporate it maybe slowly or however they can do it so they don't feel that overwhelm?
Yeah, absolutely. The first decision to make is, are you trying to dive into using a method as a method of family planning first, or you just want to get to know your body initially? If as a method of family planning, it can be extremely effective, but I always recommend working with an instructor to do it that way. If you simply want to start with understanding your body and the different parts of the cycle, and creating that map, to start understanding what your different changes are throughout your cycle, then you can simply pick up an app on the phone, and there are tons of them. But really, I tell somebody, just grab a piece of paper. The very most basic thing you can do is start recording bleeding and mucus. And that really is the first place to start. Apps will help you to record even some more information there. There's the option to take your temperature throughout your cycle, which, the temperature then changes after ovulation, so you can know when ovulation has passed. And what's cool about this too is just understanding that post-ovulatory phase when ovulation has passed. The post-ovulatory phase is very, very stable in length. And you can always know when to expect your period to the day, and some women even to the hour can know when to expect your period when you're charting your cycles like that.
Absolutely. I definitely do that as well. And I love that you mentioned some of the apps. I know you and I share the same opinion, which is that in order to really appropriately chart, you do need to learn how to do it or work with a practitioner to teach you. You can't rely on the apps to tell you when you've ovulated, right? We have to listen to our actual body. But what's great about the apps, I think you would agree, is that it allows you to kind of track everything in one central place so that you have a place to look, right? Is that your understanding and your feeling about FemTech?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, then it's just a decision of how charting is all based on the observations that you make. So how do you want to make observations? You can make observations completely just of mucus. We have cervical mucus that flows out of the body through the vagina. You can check every time you go to the bathroom and recording those patterns of mucus. You can record patterns of temperature. You can record patterns of cervix position. You can record patterns of using peeing on a stick and inserting it into a machine, and it will tell you your hormone levels there. And so you record that data.
Wow.
Deciding, what different kinds of data, or some people want to record all of them and their bathroom just looks like a lab. Deciding what do you want to record, what app fits with that, or what method fits well with that. And do you want to use it as a method of family planning or not? And that can help make decisions about how to move forward.
Amazing. And I know Creighton specifically is that the cervical mucus one?
Mucus-based, yeah.
That's so
Mucus-based method. Billings is a mucus-based method. Marquette method is a monitor and hormone testing-based method. There's symptothermal method, which is a combination of mucus and cervix position combined with a temperature observation.
Wow. So there is really a lot of options. And I know I've done the temperature one a lot. But could you tell us where people can find practitioners that could help lead them? I'm assuming that you would really use a practitioner if it's more for family planning. But can you tell us where people would find said practitioners?
Yeah, it really depends on the method. And unfortunately, this is still all fairly new and moving so quickly that we don't yet have, I would love to create a centralized database for practitioners of different methods. Right now, the best place, I believe, would be joining the Cycle Power Summit. And so hopefully it's okay for me to bring that up.
It is.
Because we also have a Facebook group going on for the Cycle Power Summit. And over the next, actually the Creighton presentation is today, but right there in the Facebook group, there's going to be practitioners of a bunch of different methods talking about their particular method and how you can get started with that method. So right now, I believe that, we would love to invite you into that and help people to define what method might be the best for them.
Well, I love that. And I love that you're not kind of sticking to your only thing that works for you, that there's many options. Yes. Yeah. And I actually didn't realize that you were having practitioners talk about all the different methods on Cycle Power Summit. So can you talk a little bit about what Cycle Power Summit is? I know Anna and I had a really fun time a couple of weeks ago talking about, she had me on the Facebook group and we talked about the connection between gut health and hormone health. And that was a blast. And I was just so excited to be part of this community. So tell us the genesis of Cycle Power Summit and how we can get involved.
Yeah, I dreamed up Cycle Power Summit to get this, just really this information that we're talking about, to get it out to the world in a wider basis, because I was teaching clients one-on-one, and I felt like there was something more that can be done here. So we started this online conference, and I have this year 32 different sessions talking about all kinds of different things with different cycle charting methods and restorative reproductive health care, diving into each of those subjects. We also have a fantastic session just talking about the history of menstrual cycle understanding and how that has affected the women's movement. So there's some really cool talks there. And as many of them, we're in the process right now of as many of them as possible are also going to be captioned in Spanish and French. So we're getting that out to the world, just inviting as many people in. What happens in a virtual summit, this will actually be free for several days for everybody to watch these sessions. And then if you want more, if you want copies of the transcriptions, if you want actually a podcast feed of the entire summit, there's a very reasonable priced premium pass that you can purchase and have access to everything on your own time.
Wow, that's incredible. And I believe this is the first online summit for kind of women's reproductive health. There's a lot of online summits. If you guys don't know, you can just email me because I'll send you, it's like every week I get one, fatty liver and this thing and that thing.
Yeah, especially in health and wellness, I believe.
Yeah, in health and wellness. Yeah, we get bombarded, but I'm actually really, really excited for Cycle Power Summit because Anna has really gotten some of the best experts in the field to come together and talk about this in one place, which is oftentimes, I think, the hardest part for women who are struggling with infertility or even other health-related issues to their menstrual cycle, because there's a lot of information everywhere. And so I would definitely highly recommend anybody who's struggling in some way with their menstrual cycle to come and check this out. And how do people find it again?
So if you are at www.cyclepowersummit.com.
Wonderful.
You register there for the free pass.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And this is your second year doing that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. The first one was last year in 2019, and then decided to do it again this year.
Wow. And by the way, folks, just in case I want to boost Anna a little bit more. So in addition to Cycle Power Summit, you also own another business for other fertility professionals. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we run a membership site for helping cycle charting instructors, fertility coaches to build their businesses, to reach more clients, to get their mission out there more effectively. Wow. So that's the Fertility Pro Business Academy.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And there's a couple of questions I always like to ask towards the end of a program. And one of them is, if you could give, in this case, maybe two things, ladies and their partners, one tip for fertility, what would it be?
For fertility, really embrace knowing your body.
Oops, you just cut out
there for a second. Okay, we're back.
There you go.
Okay, we're back now. Okay, folks. For women, it's to really embrace knowing your body and understanding where you are. You're particularly struggling with fertility. Are you in a place that you are yourself? And if not, what do you need to do to get you there? And I believe there's a combination of understanding what's going on physically, understanding, charting your cycle and really diving into that, be embracing and being okay with those changes in how you feel and behave throughout the cycle. Maybe that's okay. It's okay to need to retreat for a day or so during that, week one, during the period, and that's okay. And then for those that support that woman, for spouses, for partners, you need to understand that also so that you can serve that woman in the way that she needs to be served and those different times. And it really helps to be able to understand what's going on with her during those different times. I think it can just be a map for the whole relationship. And then understanding the guys too, that in every 24-hour period, they kind of go through their own changes, which to me sounds exhausting.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you just brought that up. I'll maybe go into it a little bit deeper for anyone who's listening, doesn't know this about your cycle and about how men work. So men's kind of cycle their hormones on a 24-hour basis. So testosterone is the main hormone that they get, and they get a boost of it with cortisol first thing in the morning around between 6 and 9 a.m. They'll get another boost around midday and then in the afternoon. And so it's very different for women because, like Anna said, you might want to retreat during your when you're on your bleeding phase. Whereas when you're closer to ovulation, you could be, really talking. You could, you want to be talking to everybody. You want to be presenting ideas, maybe pitching a new idea to your team. I mean, I can tell in my voice, I'm closer to ovulation. I mean, I track, so I know, but I'm closer to ovulation now than I am through my menstrual cycle. So even on this program, any pre-recording I will try to do so it's not while I'm actually during the bleeding phase, because that's not really when I want to be connecting with people and where I show up fully. So this is something like a little biohack that you can use as women to understand. And we're going to be talking about that a lot with Dr. Beth Westy next week. So please stay tuned for that. And Anna, the only other thing I wanted to ask you, are there any other books or resources out there that were game changers for you before we kind of wrap up for today? It's okay if there weren't, but I'm just curious. People sometimes like to learn through reading.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily in my own journey, but there's a fairly new book, and I think it was just released at the beginning of 2019, Lisa Hendrickson Jack's book, The Fifth Vital Sign.
Yes.
We've just finally coming into mainstream medicine, understanding that the ovulation and the menstrual cycle is a vital sign of health. It's amazing, like blood pressure. We can learn so much about what's going on with the health of the body. And she's just really done a fantastic job of walking that through in a very conversational, very understandable way. We also have Lisa on the summit. I had a great conversation with her about the village of fertility awareness and how we can support one another as women in this movement. So yeah, that's a fantastic book I would recommend.
Yes, I would recommend it too. I actually brought it down to Jacksonville. I was looking at all my health books. I'm like, what can I bring down? Should I bring Beyond the Pill? Should I bring Fifth Vital Sign? So that's another good one. Beyond the Pill is a good one. And
book is good.
Jolene Brighton, In the Flow, which is a new book by Alyssa Vitti, who talks about this stuff as well. So there's a lot of resources out there. And you guys know about Cycle Power Summit, so that you just go to that website, check it out. On my end, I'm actually working to build a period power program. It's going to be an 8 to 10 week program for specifically women who are struggling with menstrual health issues and PMS. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, you guys can always check out my 10-day digestive and hormone reboot. If you want to get some information on the ground, some of the stuff that Anna and I were talking about today, I go into detail, as well as kind of supporting the body through diet and lifestyle. And Anna, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited to tune in to Cycle Power Summit, and just thanks for waking up early and coming on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Sophie, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Yay, awesome. We're stronger together. Talk to you guys next week.
Thank you for joining us this week for She Talks Health. Please join Sophie Shepherd again next Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time for another episode of our show on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Have a great week.